Right, let's dive into some ninja mind control today with Ashida Kim's book as our guide. Ninjas have always fascinated me. But this book, it goes way beyond, the usual stealth and combat stuff. We're talking mental discipline, influence, almost like superpowers.
It really does change how we think about ninjas, yeah. It paints them as these warrior mystics, strong and skilled, but also like dedicated to knowledge and inner strength. And get this, Kim says there are 4 core attributes for every ninja: strength, knowledge, daring, and silence.
Strength, knowledge, daring, and silence.
Right.
Wow, it sounds intense. The book goes into each of these, right? Showing how they're all, like, connected.
Exactly. It's not just about being a tough fighter. It's also about being smart, taking risks, but calculated ones, and knowing when to, like, hold back. And that's where it gets really interesting. The book suggests that as ninjas progress, they move beyond physical combat into, like, these more subtle forms of influence, almost mind control.
Okay, hold on. How does that even work? What's the secret?
Well, Kim talks a lot about this concept of qi. You might have heard of it. This vital life force flows through it, everything. Big part of Chinese medicine and martial art. But what's interesting is how ninjas specifically used it. They'd harness and direct their qi through breathing exercises. Qi Kung, it's called.
Oh, I've tried some breathing exercises, meditation and stuff. Always feel more, centered afterward. But are we talking, like, ninjas took it to a whole other level?
Oh, absolutely. They saw Qi Kung as the foundation for everything, for developing physical and mental mastery. And the book actually has exercises. You can actually try it yourself. Feel what it's like to control your energy.
Wait, so we can learn to manipulate our chi just from this book?
That's what Kim suggests, yeah.
Yeah.
And he claims that mastering this energy, well, it can lead to all sorts of abilities, not just like increased energy and vitality, but even healing, self-defense, and influencing others. Pretty wild stuff.
Okay, you've got me hooked.
Yeah.
What else is there? What else did ninjas use to control chi?
Well, there's this practice called Kuji-Kiri, which means 9 cuts. It involves specific hand gestures, kind of like mudras in yoga, but each gesture channels energy in a particular way.
So it's not just like waving your hands around. These gestures actually have power. What kind of power are we talking about?
Well, that's what's so fascinating. Each of the 9 positions is associated with a specific ability. Things like strength, healing, even premonition and influencing thoughts. Some even claim mastery over time and space. Like, it's sci-fi stuff.
Hold on, time travel with hand gestures. That's a lot.
Yeah.
Does the book, like, actually show you how to do these Kuji-Kiri positions?
It does. It has illustrations and explanations for each one.
This is pretty mind-blowing, but also a lot to take in. Is there anything more, like, grounded, practical stuff,
Definitely. It also delves into the 5 elements theory. You might have heard of it. It's this ancient Chinese philosophy about the 5 elements: wood, fire, earth, metal, water, and how they interact, both in the world and within us.
I've heard of the 5 elements, but never really understood, like, how to use it. Does the book explain that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It explains how each element corresponds to qualities and energies inside us. For example, earth represents grounding and stability. Water is about flow and intuition. Fire is all about passion and vitality, and so on. And get this. The book actually provides specific exercises for working with each element, using like movements and visualization and stuff.
So you're saying that by doing these exercises, we can actually, like, tap into those different energies. What would an exercise be like?
Take the earth element, for instance. The book suggests interlocking your fingers, exhaling deeply, and tensing your hara. That's the area below your navel.
Yeah.
It's about grounding yourself, finding stability and strength. For water, you do these gentle, flowing hand movements and visualize a calm stream, to cultivate intuition and emotional balance.
I like that. Especially with, like, how crazy life can be. It's interesting how these ancient principles are still relevant today.
It's true. And it's not just about manipulating energy either. The book also emphasizes something called Kung, which is all about developing, well, incredible physical and mental mastery through internal training.
Internal train. That sounds intense. What exactly does that involve?
Well, think about techniques for controlling your body's functions, things like slowing your breathing, your heart rate at will. The book also talks about developing, like, superhuman balance to the point where you could walk tightropes or climb walls with ease.
Now that's some serious balance skills. Is that even possible?
Well, the book claims that with enough training and focus, ninjas could achieve these things. And there's even this practice called tameshiwara, where they'd break bricks or stones with their bare hand. Pretty wild, right?
Breaking bricks with your bare hand?
Yeah.
Ouch. But is it like some kind of supernatural ability?
Not really, no. The book emphasizes that these abilities aren't magic, but the result of, years of practice, conditioning the body and mind to achieve amazing things.
So far, we've been talking about the physical side of things. But what about the mental aspects of training? Is that where the mind control part really comes in?
That's where it gets really interesting. The book delves into concepts like mind reading, but not in the, literal sense. It's more about developing an awareness of others' emotions and thoughts through observation and building rapport.
So it's like being super perceptive,
Yeah.
like Sherlock Holmes, picking up on those tiny details and understanding, what makes people tick.
Exactly. Noticing those tiny details, body language, tone of voice, even like those micro expressions. The book actually has techniques for figuring out a person's thinking style, whether they're visual, auditory, or kinesthetic, just by watching their eye movements.
Wow, you can tell how someone thinks just by their eyes. How does that even work?
The book explains that visual thinkers tend to look up and to the right when remembering or imagining something. Auditory thinkers look to the side as if listening. And kinesthetic thinkers, they look down and to the right as if, feeling or experiencing something.
I'm totally going to try that out. Imagine knowing how someone processes information. That could be so useful in like all kinds of situations.
And that's just one example. They were also masters of body language, using it to build rapport, project confidence, or even subtly influence people.
Speaking of influence, let's talk about hypnosis for a minute. Still a bit, skeptical about it, but I'm curious to hear how the book presents it.
Well, like we said before, the book explains that hypnosis isn't about like mind control in the traditional sense. It's not about making someone do something against their will. It's more about understanding how suggestions and beliefs can influence our actions, both consciously and subconsciously.
Okay, I get that. But how does that work in real life? I mean, I've seen those stage hypnotists, they get people to do some crazy things. Is that even real, or is it all just a big trick?
The book actually talks about that. It explains that stage hypnosis relies on, well, the participants being willing to play along, to enter that suggestible state. And it emphasizes that these principles of suggestion, well, they can be used in everyday life too, just in much more subtle ways.
So you're saying that we're all susceptible to suggestion,
Yeah.
even if we don't, realize it.
To a certain extent, yeah. Think about advertising. They use all sorts of techniques to appeal to our emotions, to create those associations between their products and positive feelings. They're basically using suggestion to influence, what we buy.
That's true. I've definitely fallen for a clever ad before. But if we're being bombarded with suggestions all the time, how can we protect ourselves from being manipulated?
That's where self-awareness comes in.
Hmm.
The book encourages us to, be more aware of the messages we're getting, to question things, our assumptions, and to make decisions based on our own values and goals, not on someone else's agenda.
So it's about developing critical thinking skills,
Yeah.
learning to tell the difference between real information and manipulative tactics.
Exactly. And it's about understanding how language can be used, to shape how we see things. The book talks about the dangers of loaded questions, for example. Those questions designed to get a specific answer.
I've definitely been caught off guard by a loaded question before. It's like they're steering you in a specific direction without you even, realizing it.
Yeah. And it's not just about questions. The book also talks about controlling options, like when someone gives you limited choices, but all the choices benefit them.
So it's about being aware of those subtle ways language can be used, to control the conversation and influence our choices. It's almost like mental self-defense.
That's a great way to put it. And it's a valuable skill in all parts of life, from, negotiating to relationships.
Okay, let's switch gears a bit and talk about the Milukata. It's described as this lost form of ninja training, a set of movements that teaches, well, invisibility and subtle influence.
What's fascinating about it is that it uses an imaginary enemy to channel energy and focus during practice.
An imaginary enemy. So you're fighting someone who's not even there. What's the point of that?
Well, that's the interesting part. The book suggests that, by creating this mental image, your most formidable adversary, you can tap into a deeper level of intensity and focus during training, harnessing those primal instincts and using them for self-mastery.
So it's not about, being aggressive, but about using that mental image to push yourself beyond your limits.
Exactly. It's training your mind and body to react instinctively and decisively. And the Milukata goes even further. It incorporates the 5 principles of magic.
Magic. Now, I'm really intrigued. Wait, I thought we were talking about ninjas, not like wizards and stuff.
That's the beauty of this book. It blurs those lines between, warrior and mystic, showing how ninjas incorporated elements of spirituality and even, well, magic into their training.
Okay, tell me more about these 5 principles.
They are angle, blinding, misdirection, scarf, and mine. Each one relates to a specific technique, a way to gain an advantage over your opponent.
So we're talking about like real world applications, not just theoretical stuff.
Oh, absolutely. The book gives specific examples of how these are used in the Mailakata. For example, the sand in the eyes throw uses blinding, to create an opening for attack or to escape.
So it's about using distractions and diversions to create opportunities. Pretty clever. What about misdirection?
One example is the coin toss.
Huh.
You pretend to offer coins to distract, and then you strike when they least expect it.
That's like straight out of spy movie. I'm starting to see how these magical principles are actually quite practical.
And then there's scarf, which is all about deception and illusion, concealing your true intentions.
So using smoke and mirrors, literally and figuratively, to keep your opponent guessing?
Yeah.
This is all tied into the whole invisibility thing, right?
Exactly. It's about moving unseen, physically and mentally. And the kata itself, it's meant to be practiced on both sides of the body to develop, ambidexterity and adaptability. That's the angle principle. Always keeping your opponent off balance.
Wow, this kata sounds like a whole system
Yes.
of self-defense, physical, mental, even psychological.
It's a fascinating mix of warrior and mystic, practical techniques and spiritual principles.
This is all so fascinating. But it seems like it goes even deeper into like spirituality. Didn't the book talk about hidden masters? Like spirit helpers?
You're right. That's where it takes a really interesting turn, exploring that spiritual dimension. It talks about hidden masters, not as, literal beings, but as representations of our higher selves, the wisdom and guidance that's there for us if we know how to access it.
So it's like tapping into your intuition, right? Your inner wisdom to guide you and help you make decisions. That's a powerful concept.
And the book suggests that everyone can connect with this inner wisdom. It talks about techniques like meditation and visualization for, connecting with these spirit helpers.
I'm noticing a theme here. It's not about relying on external forces or powers, but about cultivating that strength and wisdom within yourself.
Exactly. And that's what makes this book so compelling. It's not just a ninja training manual. It's a guide to unlocking our potential, to becoming masters of our own minds and destinies.
Well, this deep dive has been absolutely mind-blowing. I'm seeing ninjas in a whole new light. Not just warriors, but masters of, well, everything. The mind, the spirit, the whole package.
And we've only scratched the surface. There's so much more in this book, from, advanced combat to the psychology of persuasion and influence.
I can't wait to dive in deeper. But for now, I think we need a minute to process all this. It's a lot to take in.
Definitely. Lots to think about.
We'll be back soon to continue our deep dive into the world of ninja mind control, so stay tuned.
It's wild to think these warrior mystics were like centuries ago, using techniques that we're just now starting to understand.
It really makes you wonder if we've, lost touch with some of that ancient wisdom, the connection between like mind, body, spirit.
Maybe we have, yeah. But the good news is that Kim's book gives us a way back. It's not just about fighting like a ninja, It's about cultivating that inner strength, that resilience that lets you like face life's challenges, but with grace and determination.
I like that. It's like we all have that inner ninja just waiting to come out. But
Yeah.
let's go back to chi for a minute. We talked about how they, cultivate it through breathing.
Yeah.
But how do they actually use this energy in combat or even daily life?
That's where directing chi comes in. The book explains that ninjas, by focusing and visualizing, could like channel their chi to specific parts of their body to, enhance their strength, their speed, even healing.
So it's not just having this energy, but learning to like control it, send it where it's needed.
Right. Imagine being able to focus your energy to heal an injury or sharpen your senses when it's dangerous. That's the power of directed chi.
That sounds pretty amazing. And the book suggests that like anyone can learn this.
That's what Kim says, yeah. He's very clear that these aren't, supernatural powers. It's years of practice, training the mind and body to work together.
One technique that really stuck with me was the Tamashawara. breaking bricks and stuff
Yeah.
with their bare hand. How's that even possible? Wouldn't they just break their bones?
It's all about focus and precision.
Hmm.
The book explains that ninjas, by concentrating their chi into that point of impact, they could generate enough force to break through, solid object. It's not just brute strength, it's focused energy.
Hmm. It makes you think if that kind of focus could be used for like more than just breaking stuff.
Yeah.
Like, could you use that same principle to, overcome challenges in your life,
Hmm.
personal stuff, work stuff?
It's a really interesting thought. What if we could, use that focus to break through mental barriers or achieve those impossible goals? The book definitely hints at that possibility.
And then there's that dragon claw technique, right?
Yeah.
Developing incredible grip strength. The book mentions them carrying like heavy jars by their mouths. That's intense.
Yeah, shows their dedication, their discipline. They understood that mastery comes from, pushing yourself, challenging yourself constantly. Yeah. To improve.
It's kind of inspiring, It reminds you that we're capable of so much more. But let's shift gears a bit. Talk about the mental side. We mentioned mind reading before. I'm curious how ninjas actually develop this ability.
Well, like we said, it's not literally reading minds. It's about being highly aware of, someone's emotions, motivations, even their thought patterns.
But isn't that something we all do to some extent? We read body language,
Hmm.
we pay attention to tone of voice,
Hmm.
we try to understand each other. What makes the ninja approach to mind reading different?
It's about taking those skills to a whole other level. They were masters of noticing, like the tiniest cues, things most people miss, those fleeting expressions, those subtle shifts in posture, the changes in tone.
Mhm.
And they used all that to their advantage, whether it was, a negotiation or a fight or even just like a social interaction.
So it's about paying attention, being really present,
Mm-hmm.
taking in as much information as you can, almost like mindfulness, but with a purpose.
Exactly. And the book actually has techniques for, honing those skills. For example, it explains how to tell someone's thinking style, like are they visual or auditory or kinesthetic, just by watching their eyes.
Hold on, you can tell how someone thinks just by their eyes. How's that work?
Well, the book explains that visual thinkers, they tend to look up and to the right. When they're remembering something or imagining something, auditory thinkers look to the side, like as if they're listening. And kinesthetic thinkers, they look down and to the right, like they're feeling something.
I got to try this out. Imagine being able to change how you communicate depending on someone's thinking style.
Yeah.
That could be like incredibly useful.
And that's just one example, yeah. They were also masters of body language, of course, using it to, build trust, project confidence, even subtly influence people.
Speaking of influence, let's talk more about hypnosis. I'm still a bit skeptical, but I'm open to hearing more about how the book, explains it.
So, like we touched on earlier, the book, it kind of demystifies hypnosis. It
Right.
explains that it's not really mind control in the traditional sense. It's not about forcing someone. It's more about understanding how suggestions and beliefs can influence our actions, both consciously and subconsciously.
Okay, but how does that actually work? I mean, I've seen those stage hypnotists. They get people doing crazy stuff. Is that
Yeah.
real, or is it all just like a trick?
The book actually talks about that. Yeah, it explains that stage hypnosis relies on the participants, being willing to play along, to enter into that suggestible state, and it emphasizes that those same principles, well, they can be applied in everyday life, just in a much more subtle way.
So you're saying that like we're all susceptible to suggestion, even if we don't, even if we don't realize it.
To some degree, yeah. Think about advertising. They use all those techniques to appeal to our emotions, to create those connections between their product and positive feelings. They're basically using suggestion to influence, what we buy.
That's true. I've definitely been swayed by a good ad before,
Right.
but if we're like constantly bombarded with suggestions, how do we protect ourselves from being manipulated?
That's where self-awareness comes in. The book encourages us to be more conscious of the messages we're, receiving, to question our assumptions and to make decisions based on, our values, our goals, not someone else's agenda.
So it's about like strengthening that critical thinking muscle.
Yeah.
Learning to tell the difference between real information and manipulative tactics.
Exactly. And it's about understanding how language can be used to to shape our perceptions. The
Yeah.
book talks about the danger of loaded questions, for example, questions that are designed to elicit a particular response.
Oh yeah, loaded questions. I've definitely been caught off guard by those before. It's like they're leading you down a path without you even, realizing it.
Right. And it's not just questions. The book also discusses controlling options. Like when someone presents you with a limited set of choices, but all those choices benefit them.
So it's about, being aware of those subtle ways that language can be used to kind of control the conversation and influence our decisions. It's almost like a mental self-defense.
That's a great way to put it. And it's a skill that's so valuable in every part of life, from business negotiations to personal relationships.
Okay, let's shift gears again. Let's talk about that Milu Kata, that lost form of ninja training. It's a set of movements, right, that teaches invisibility and subtle influence.
Yeah, and what's really fascinating about this kata is that it involves using an imaginary enemy to channel energy and focus during practice.
We talked about that before, right? Using visualization to enhance your training. But I'm still curious about like the practical applications. How does this kata actually work?
So for one thing, the Mila Kata incorporates the five principles of magic we talked about earlier: angle, blinding, misdirection, scarf, and mind. And each principle relates to a technique or strategy for gaining, an advantage, whether it's a physical opponent or just a challenging situation.
So it's about, using deception, distraction, psychological tactics to gain an edge.
Exactly. And the kata itself is designed to be practiced on both sides of the body, developing ambidexterity and adaptability. That's, embodying the angle principle. Always keep your opponent guessing, off balance.
It sounds incredibly complex. Can
Yeah.
you give me like a specific example of how one of those principles might be applied in the kata?
Sure. Take blinding, for instance. In the kata, that might involve a technique like the sand in the eyes throw, where you distract your opponent by throwing sand or something into their eyes, creating an opening to attack or escape.
That's pretty clever and a little ruthless, but I could see how it would be effective, for self-defense.
And it's not just about physical techniques, of course. The principle of misdirection, for example, that could involve, using a verbal distraction, diverting their attention before making your move, or
Mm.
using your body language to create that false sense of security.
Well, it's like playing mind games, you know, using psychology to your advantage.
Exactly. The Milukata is like a masterclass in psychological warfare. It teaches you to be unpredictable, to anticipate your opponent's moves, to always be, one step ahead.
This is all so fascinating. It really makes you appreciate like the depth of ninja training, right?
Yeah.
It's not just fighting, it's about understanding the mind, both your own and your opponent's.
And it's about using that knowledge to achieve your goals, whether those goals are, self-defense or persuasion or just navigating life's challenges with grace and skill.
This deep dive has really opened my eyes to the world of the ninja, to their unique blend of physical prowess and mental discipline and spiritual awareness.
It's a world that's so full of intrigue and mystery and wisdom. And while we may never fully understand their secrets, we can definitely learn from their example and apply those principles to our own lives.
Speaking of learning from their example, didn't the book also talk about hidden masters or like spirit helpers?
Yeah.
I'm curious to hear more about that aspect of ninja training.
Right. The spiritual dimension. The book suggests that ninjas cultivated a really deep connection to their inner selves, to that source of wisdom and guidance that we all have inside us.
So it's not about relying on like outside forces, but about tapping into our own inner strength and intuition.
Exactly. And the book describes these hidden masters not as literal beings, but as representations of our higher selves. The embodiment of our wisdom, our courage, our compassion.
That's a beautiful concept. The idea that we all have these inner guides, these sources of strength that we can access if we know how.
And the book offers some practical techniques for connecting with these, spirit helpers like meditation and visualization.
So it's not just about fighting and espionage and all that. It's also about cultivating a deeper understanding of yourself and your place in the world.
Exactly. That's what makes the ninja path so compelling. It's not just a set of skills, it's a way of life, a philosophy,
Oh,
one that emphasizes self-mastery, resilience, and living in harmony with yourself and the world around you.
this has been a really incredible deep dive so far. We've covered so much ground from the physical techniques to the mental and spiritual principles behind their philosophy.
It's amazing to think that all this knowledge was, passed down for generations, kept secret for centuries, and now, thanks to books like Kim's, we have the chance to explore these ancient teachings and see how they're relevant in our own lives.
And that's what I love about these deep dives. It's not just about learning facts. It's about expanding our horizons, challenging our assumptions, and discovering new ways of thinking and being.
It's about unlocking our potential, about embracing the warrior mystic within each of us.
This episode has definitely made me more curious. I'm eager to hear more about the more advanced techniques and strategies that ninjas use to overcome challenges and achieve their goals.
Well, then let's continue our journey into the world of ninja mind control. There's so much more to uncover.
That whole idea of hidden masters really stuck with me, from our last conversation. Such a powerful concept.
It is, yeah. It's like it speaks to that human need for guidance, for support, for something bigger than ourselves.
Right. And the book says that ninjas, they didn't just tap into this wisdom through meditation, but through their training too, even in combat.
Yeah, that's one of the things that makes the ninja path so unique. It's not just physical mastery. It's about cultivating this deep connection to your intuition, to that inner voice that guides you.
And the book claims that anyone can develop this connection through practice, self-awareness, pushing yourself beyond your limits.
Exactly. It's recognizing that the wisdom we're looking for, well, it's often already there inside us.
To that saying, the answers you seek are already within you.
Yeah, exactly. And the ninja path, it gives you a framework for accessing those answers,
Yeah.
for tapping into that inner strength and wisdom.
Speaking of frameworks, let's go back to the Milu kata for a bit. We touched on it, but I want to hear more about like how it's used in real life.
Right. So as we talked about, the Milu Kata is it's a unique set of movements, teaches you those principles of invisibility and subtle influence.
Right, and it incorporates those five principles of what was it? Magic, angle, blinding, misdirection, scarf, and mind.
Yeah. And each of those principles, they relate to a specific technique or strategy for gaining an advantage in any situation, really, whether it's a physical fight or a negotiation or just a social
And
interaction.
it's like a toolkit for navigating, how people interact.
Exactly. And the kata itself, it's meant to be practiced on both sides of the body, you see. So you're developing that ambidexterity, that adaptability. That's
Yeah.
embodying the angle principle, right? Always keeping your opponent off balance.
And I'm seeing now how this kata it's more than just movements. It's a way of thinking, a way of moving through the world, but with awareness and intention.
Yeah. It's about being present, attuned to what's around you, ready to adapt.
And it's about understanding the psychology of your opponent or anyone you're interacting with, really.
That's a key part of it, yeah. The Milu Kata teaches you to anticipate, to see their intentions almost before they act.
It's like that saying, the best defense is a good offense.
Hmm. But it's not just about defense. It's about using that understanding of psychology to subtly, influence the situation, guide it in a way that benefits you.
So it's not manipulation, it's not control, but it's about using your awareness and your skills to create a better outcome.
Exactly. It's about being the master of your own destiny, not a pawn in someone else's game.
This whole invisibility concept is really fascinating. Is it literally about, hiding in the shadows, or is it more about going unnoticed socially?
It's both, actually. The book talks about, those physical techniques, moving silently, avoiding detection, but also talks about blending in socially, being, inconspicuous.
So it's about being a chameleon,
Right.
adapting, blending in.
Exactly. And it's about reading the room,
Yeah.
understanding how people are interacting and adjusting your own behavior accordingly.
It's like being a fly on the wall,
Yeah.
seeing everything, but nobody notices you.
Exactly. And that ability to observe without being seen, well, it can be incredibly useful in all sorts of situations.
It makes me think of those nature documentaries. When they're filming animals, filmmakers have to be completely invisible so they don't disturb the animals.
Yeah, same principle. The ninja's ability to move unseen, it allowed them to gather information, to assess the situation, to make decisions, all without being detected.
It's like a superpower, right? Seeing and hearing everything, but being completely hidden.
And that ability to stay hidden, to be the silent observer, while it can be just as powerful as the ability to fight.
I'm seeing now how all these different parts of ninja training they fit together to create this complete system of self-mastery.
It is a system of physical skill, mental discipline, spiritual awareness,
Yeah.
and a deep understanding of human nature.
This deep dive it's been amazing. I feel like I'm finally starting to understand what it really means to be a ninja, a warrior mystic walking that path of shadow and light.
It's a path that's full of challenges for sure, but it's also full of rewards. It's a journey of self-discovery,
Mm.
of pushing yourself, of unlocking that hidden potential.
So, if our listeners want to learn more about this world, where can they find Ashida Kim's book?
Ninja Mind Control, you can find it online, bookstores, lots of places. It's a really it's a thought-provoking read. It'll definitely challenge how you see things and inspire you to maybe explore your own inner ninja.
This has been an incredible journey. Thank you so much for guiding us through this intricate world of ninja mind control.
My pleasure. And remember, the path of the warrior mystic, it's open to anyone who seeks it. It's a journey of self-discovery, of mastering your mind, your body, your spirit.
And who knows, maybe we all have a little bit of ninja inside us, just waiting to be unleashed.
Perhaps we do. Until next time, stay curious, stay open-minded, and keep exploring, those hidden depths of your own potential.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into ninja mind control. We'll see you next time for another adventure.